My name's Emily, I'm 35, and I never imagined my own brother Daniel would try to end my life over our childhood home in a small Minnesota town. 3 months after Dad passed away, Daniel and his wife Vanessa showed up with a stack of papers and a plan that turned my world upside down. I can still feel the weight of Daniel's boot on my chest, my head throbbing as blood pooled on the wooden floor Dad used to polish with pride. Vanessa's icy voice echoes in my nightmares. "Do it, Daniel. Finish her. I thought I'd die in the house Dad worked his whole life to keep for us." Before I tell you how I survived and fought back in ways they never saw coming, drop a comment to share where you're reading from. If family ever betrayed you over money, hit like and follow my story. Here's how it all unfolded and how I reclaimed my life. Growing up, our 2-story house on Maple Street was my safe haven. It sat in a quiet town where neighbors knew your name and waved from their porches. Dad bought the house when he married Mom, picturing it filled with kids, love, and laughter. For years, it was just that. Daniel, 2 years older, and I would chase each other down the stairs, build blanket forts in the living room, and spend summer nights in the treehouse Dad crafted in the backyard. But everything changed when I was 8. Mom left us without a word, packing her bags while we were at school and running off to California with a man she met at yoga class. Dad never spoke ill of her, just said she needed to chase her dreams. She never reached out, no calls, no letters, no birthday cards. It was like we vanished from her life. Dad became our rock. He worked long hours at the factory, his hands calloused from extra shifts to keep the house. "This is our sanctuary," he'd say, his voice steady as he tucked me in. "Nothing can take it away." I clung to those words like a lifeline. As teenagers, Daniel and I drifted apart. I stayed close to Dad, working at the local grocery store after school to help with bills and driving him to the doctor when his arthritis flared up. Daniel, always the brainy one, won a scholarship to a fancy business school 3 states away. When he visited, he seemed embarrassed by our simple life. "This house is old, Dad. Sell it and get something modern," he'd say over holiday dinners. Dad would just chuckle and say, "A house isn't a home, son." After college, Daniel transformed into someone I barely recognized. The brother who once shared popsicles on the front steps was gone, replaced by a guy obsessed with money, designer suits, flashy cars, and a high-flying job at a financial firm in Minneapolis. That's where he met Vanessa, a stunning woman with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. The first time she visited, she walked through our house like it was a museum of outdated relics. She called Dad's cherished oak table rustic and suggested he move to a retirement home with better amenities. Their lavish wedding at a country club felt like a scene from a movie we didn't belong in. Dad and I, in our modest clothes, stuck out among Daniel's wealthy friends. Dad's heartfelt speech brought tears to my eyes, but I overheard Vanessa whisper to a guest that it was embarrassingly sentimental. When Dad was diagnosed with cancer 3 years ago, I left my job at the elementary school office, where I'd worked for nearly a decade, to move back home and care for him. Daniel promised to visit, but showed up only once, leaving early for a work emergency. I saw the hurt in Dad's eyes, though he never complained. I managed everything: his medications, hospital visits, and eventually hospice care in our living room. One clear evening, when the pain meds hadn't clouded his mind, Dad took my hand. "Emily, this house is yours," he whispered, his voice frail but firm. "You've stayed. You get what it means. Daniel's built a different life." Tears fell as I promised to honor his wish. The next day, he met with his lawyer to finalize his will, a rare smile on his face. Dad's death left a hole in my heart. I'd sit in his bedroom, holding his worn wallet or tracing the pages of his half-read book. The house felt too quiet, like it was holding its breath. Daniel and Vanessa came for the funeral, and for a fleeting moment, as we stood by Dad's grave, Daniel's arm around me felt like the brother I'd lost. But Vanessa stood apart, glancing at her phone, her designer dress out of place in the somber crowd. That flicker of connection with Daniel vanished quickly. After the funeral, as we cleaned up the kitchen, he cornered me. "We need to sell the house," he said, his tone cold. "It's worth a fortune now." I shook my head. Dad wanted me to keep it. His eyes darkened, but he left without another word, Vanessa trailing behind him. 2 weeks later, we met with Dad's lawyer, Lloyd Peterson, in his cozy office lined with family photos. Daniel and Vanessa arrived late, dressed like they were closing a corporate deal. The will was straightforward. I inherited the house, with a plan to pay Daniel half its value over 5 years, no interest. Dad's savings were split evenly, and we'd share his belongings. Daniel's face stayed blank, but his clenched fists gave him away. Vanessa's heels clicked impatiently on the floor. "Can't we just sell it?" Daniel asked. Lloyd explained Dad's wish for me to keep the house, though I could sell later if I wanted. Daniel nodded, but his glance at Vanessa felt heavy with meaning. At lunch afterward, at Dad's favorite Italian place, Daniel pushed harder. "Sell it, Emily. Get a condo, pay me now." Vanessa chimed in. "Clinging to nostalgia is costly. That house is falling apart." I held my ground. "It's not just a house. It's home." Things took a darker turn. My cousin Patrick called from Minneapolis with a bombshell. Daniel and Vanessa were drowning in debt. They'd bought a luxury condo, and Vanessa's spending, designer bags, exotic trips, had spiraled out of control. They owed over $120,000. Suddenly, Daniel's obsession with selling the house made sense. He needed fast cash to save their lifestyle. I lived frugally on my school salary, and the house was paid off. I wasn't about to sacrifice Dad's legacy to bail them out. Daniel's calls grew hostile. "You're hoarding a house you don't need," he shouted one night. "Dad babied you, and now you're stuck in that dead-end town." Vanessa sent texts dripping with guilt. "Family sacrifices for family. Be reasonable." Worse, some relatives, swayed by Vanessa's lies that I'd manipulated Dad into giving me the house, started calling to pressure me. Then strange things happened. A woman in a black SUV parked across the street, watching my house for hours, before speeding off when I approached. A week later, I found my favorite coffee mug moved to a different shelf, and a realtor's business card tucked under a vase. Daniel admitted he'd given a realtor Dad's spare key to assess the value. Furious, I changed every lock. The threats escalated. One night, Daniel called, slurring his words like he'd been drinking. "You'll regret this," he growled. Deep scratches appeared on my new front door lock. My friend Alicia, who'd known us since grade school, urged me to take it seriously. "Daniel's not himself anymore," she said. I installed security cameras and met with a lawyer, Jessica Reyes, about a restraining order. "Document everything," Jessica advised. "Every call, text, or odd event." My neighbor Thomas, a retired police officer with a kind but no-nonsense demeanor, noticed a man in a suit peering into my windows one evening. "Looked like Daniel," he said. "I'll keep an eye out." Sleep became impossible. I checked the locks obsessively, haunted by dreams of Daniel chasing me through a flooding house. One day, I was horrified to find my house listed for sale online, complete with photos of my bedroom, my kitchen, even Dad's old armchair. The listing called it move-in ready. The realtor, a friend of Vanessa's, claimed Daniel had given her permission. Jessica sent a cease and desist letter, and the listing came down, but Daniel's text turned menacing. "You can't hide forever, Emily." My health started to crumble. My blood pressure spiked, I stopped eating, and I'd cry in the school bathroom during breaks. My boss, noticing my exhaustion, suggested a leave of absence. But Dad's voice in my head, "This house is our safe place," kept me fighting. One chilly morning, a letter with no stamp slid under my door, written in unfamiliar handwriting. "Sell now or lose it all." It reeked of cheap cologne, not Daniel's usual scent. Thomas's security camera caught a hooded figure dropping it off at 2 a.m. "That's not Daniel," Thomas said, squinting at the footage. "Someone else is involved." Jessica suspected it was a hired thug, common in desperate financial schemes. I added motion sensor lights and a new alarm system, but fear followed me like a shadow. I'd jump at every creak in the house, my heart racing. On a bright Saturday morning, I was sipping coffee on the porch when the doorbell rang. My camera showed Daniel and Vanessa standing there, him clutching a folder, her in a tailored suit with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Daniel's calm demeanor unnerved me more than his anger ever had. "We just want to talk," he called through the door, his voice too smooth. "A solution that works for everyone." Against my better judgment, I opened the door, keeping the chain on at first. Their calm insistence wore me down, and I let them in, my pulse hammering. We sat at the dining table where Dad used to carve pumpkins with us. Daniel slid the folder toward me. "Take out a mortgage for 70% of the house's value," he said. "Pay me my share now and you keep the house." Vanessa nodded, her voice syrupy. "It's a win-win, Emily." I saw through it immediately. "You want me to go into debt to fix your financial mess?" I said. Daniel's fake calm shattered. He shoved his chair back, grabbed my hair, and slammed me against the wall. A framed photo of Dad and me fell, glass splintering. Pain exploded in my back. "Sign it," he roared, throwing me to the floor. My head hit the wood, blood trickling into my eyes. He kicked my ribs, once, twice, 3 times, each blow stealing my breath. Vanessa stood frozen, her face blank like she was watching a play. I curled into a ball, my vision blurring, tasting blood in my mouth. Daniel picked up Dad's heavy crystal paperweight, its colors glinting in the sunlight. Vanessa's voice cut through the haze. "Do it, Daniel. Finish her." I saw something terrifying in his eyes. My brother was gone, replaced by a stranger willing to kill. Then the back door burst open. "Police! Stop!" Thomas shouted, holding his phone, recording everything. Daniel froze, the paperweight raised. Vanessa's cool mask cracked, her eyes wide with panic. "Drop it," Thomas ordered. "Cops are on their way." Daniel stammered. "She attacked us." But Thomas didn't flinch. "I've got it all on video, including your wife telling you to kill her." Sirens wailed closer. Vanessa tried to fake tears, but Thomas wasn't buying it. "Family doesn't do this," he said, his voice heavy with disgust. Paramedics rushed me to the hospital, where I learned I had 3 broken ribs, a severe concussion, and a gash on my head that took 22 stitches to close. Bruises covered my arms and legs. Detectives took my statement, and Thomas's video was undeniable proof. Daniel and Vanessa were arrested for assault and attempted coercion. I spent 5 days in the hospital, Alicia by my side, bringing me soup and holding my hand. "That video will bury them," she said. My Aunt Susan visited, tears in her eyes, apologizing for believing Vanessa's lies about me scheming to steal the house. Returning to the house felt impossible. The floors were clean, but I could still see the blood, feel the kicks. I stayed with Alicia, sleeping on her couch, haunted by nightmares of Daniel's rage and Vanessa's cold words. A doctor diagnosed me with acute stress disorder, warning it could become PTSD. Then Jessica uncovered something chilling, a hidden lockbox in Dad's study, tucked behind a loose wall panel. Inside were documents about a factory accident from years ago, faulty equipment, injured workers, and a cover-up to protect the company's profits. There were photos, handwritten notes, and a name, Thomas Sterling, Daniel's boss at Sterling Tech. Did Daniel want the house to find these papers? Was he protecting his company's secrets? Jessica hired an investigator, Mark Evans, to dig deeper. Mark discovered Sterling Tech had profited millions from the cover-up, and Daniel might have been tasked with retrieving Dad's evidence. The hooded man who left the threatening letter was likely Victor Kane, a fixer for Sterling Tech. "They'd do anything to keep this buried," Mark warned. I upgraded my security again, stronger locks, better cameras, but lived in constant fear, checking corners and jumping at shadows. The trial was grueling. Thomas's video played in court, and Vanessa's "finish her" sent gasps through the room. Bank records revealed their $160,000 debt, Vanessa's luxury purchases, and Daniel's failed investments in risky stocks. Text messages showed they'd planned to force me to sell, even discussing removing me if I refused. Daniel tried to pin it all on Vanessa, claiming she manipulated him. She claimed she was afraid of him. The judge didn't buy either story. Daniel got 10 years in prison, Vanessa 5, with restraining orders barring them from contacting me. I felt no victory, just a hollow ache for the brother I'd lost. Going back to the house was like walking into a ghost story. The walls were repainted, the broken glass gone, but the air felt heavy with betrayal. Alicia and Thomas helped me rearrange the furniture, trying to make it feel new. In Dad's study, I found a letter in his handwriting, tucked in a drawer. "This house is our soul, Emily. You've kept its heart alive. Daniel, I hope you find your way home." I broke down, knowing Dad would have been shattered by this. To reclaim the space, I painted the kitchen a vibrant yellow, Dad's favorite color, and turned his workshop into an art studio. I started painting, bold, messy canvases that let out my pain. Soon, I began teaching art classes for local kids, their giggles filling the house with light again. Mark's investigation led to Victor Kane's arrest for unrelated crimes, and he confessed to working for Sterling Tech, pressured by Thomas Sterling to scare me. The FBI took Dad's lockbox, launching a probe into Sterling Tech's cover-up. I decided to sell the house to a young couple with a baby, sharing only its happy memories, our treehouse summers, Dad's laughter. With the money, I bought a cozy bungalow near the school and founded the James Reynolds Art Center, offering free art therapy for trauma survivors. The kids' paintings, full of color and hope, helped me heal. A year later, Daniel sent a letter from prison, apologizing and begging to reconnect. I visited once, seeing a flicker of the brother I loved, but told him I needed proof of real change. Vanessa's manipulative letters stopped when I ignored them. Mark, who'd become a close friend, slowly became more, a steady, kind presence, who shared my love for quiet evenings and gardening. I enrolled in a master's program in art therapy, planted a garden in Dad's memory with his favorite sunflowers, and built a new family with friends like Alicia and neighbors like Thomas. Daniel's betrayal taught me that home isn't just a place, it's the love and strength you carry inside. I'd love to hear your stories of overcoming betrayal in the comments. Like and follow if my journey resonates with you. I'm Emily, living life on my terms, proving that the best way to fight back is to shine brighter than the darkness ever could. Share your betrayal stories below. Like and subscribe for more. I'm Emily, living my way, proving the best revenge is shining brighter than before.